My void will consume you, if you ask nicely.
Your will is no longer your own.
Stay away from them. To arms!
You have led the Horde to a place without honor.
Your petty quarrels only make me stronger.
Our world needs us, champion.
You got me over your head.
We cannot let the world fall to darkness.
Already lost.
Put your faith in the light, and all is possible.
Is it truly righteousness that drives you? I wonder.
It would seem you have guessed.
They are coming for you. This is the Whispers of War.
Hello everyone and welcome to Whispers of War, show number 97. I'm your host Sil, and let's just talk about all the stuff I've done in World of Warcraft this week. I've leveled my Magar Orc. She is now 72. I did Zangarmarsh. I didn't want to go to Wrath content, so I went to Zangarmarsh. Then after Zangarmarsh I actually went to Nagrand. Nagrand is really good for leveling, because you know you have the Nesingwary quest lines, and you have to kill a lot of mobs. Like, a lot of quests still require you to kill 15 of these and 20 of these, and that really helps you with leveling really quickly. Also, everything is quite closely packed together, so I would really recommend, if you are into the whole leveling thing, to also add Nagrand to that list. It's really good. So that is basically the update on the Orc. It's nice also to do a little bit of Horde side questing, because I kind of forgot everything. I forgot a lot of the quests in the Grand, and especially on the Horde side, because it feels like I haven't really done that in ages. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it, but I think it has happened now that I'm kind of like bored of leveling for old content, and I have been debating just stopping the leveling for now until Shadowlands comes out and there will be a whole new leveling experience, because it will give me some time to, you know, go through entire expansions, see areas that I would normally don't really see when I'm on this sort of leveling. Yeah, so I was thinking maybe I should stop, but another part of my brain is like, but all the things that you could level now, you know, it feels a little bit like I should. Yeah, still conflicted about it. What I want to do in the meantime, though, is I want to do a few mount runs, and I want to finish the postal. It's not a mount, but the postal quest line that you can get, because I would like that gnome that works as a mailbox. And a little pet. So my guildie Drix, I have to give her credit. She was really sweet to pass on the letter. So now I have to go to the black market auction house and talk to the panda who leads it, and start that whole quest line. And afterwards I can give the letter to someone else in the guild. So that's something I do want to finish. But I actually also really want to run around in beta this time around, because I think it would help me find the class I want to play, unless they change, of course, everything drastically again, which they might. You don't know. I mean, Shadow Priest has made massive changes all of a sudden, and everyone seems to enjoy it a lot. They might do that with some of the other classes, I don't know. But I want to try beta a little bit more, just to figure out, is this a class I might potentially want to try? Because I always said I wasn't going to do ranged, but I do want to try ranged now, just to see maybe if the playstyle is more enjoyable or not. Yeah, so I'm just going to give everything a shot. I think it will mostly be on Horde. I only have a few Alliance characters just because I do want to go through the storyline and read the story quests before I get really annoyed on Shadowlands and there's so many people and I just don't have the time for it. So if I do that now, at least I know what's going on. and I can enjoy it a little bit more when it's live. And I also want to see if certain races class combinations on the Alliance side, because that is where my mains are at the moment, if they feel good. So if I want to create, for instance, a Night Elf Warrior, or if I want to race change my Void Elf to a Night Elf or something else, or human, I feel like I get a great opportunity now to see if the animations and the new customizations, if it makes it worth it to change them. But we shall see. So that's really my plan for now. I might still level a little bit in between if I feel like, okay, yeah, actually I want to do a few levels on my orc and see if I can push her. You know, I'm on 72 now. It's only 38 more levels to get her gear, but I don't know if I want to. Maybe I should just keep it. So we'll see. Luckily, it's not like the heritage gear is going away, so that makes it a little bit less pressured of you need to do this. But before we talk about what you guys have done on the PTR, I am going to leave you with a great interview I had with Berzerker, and afterwards I'll come back with that question of the week. So enjoy, and I'll see you on the flip side. And with me today, I'm being joined by yet another brand new voice. I love having all these new guests on. Welcome so much, all the way from America, Berzerker.
Thank you for having me and bringing on all of us new voices and getting yourself into trouble that you're not even aware of that you're getting yourself into. But yes, it's the beauty of modern technology. We're reaching across the globe to spread the love of Warcraft. It's amazing. I know.
And, you know, like I said before the show, hopefully my internet will also be like great on me today, because it seems to hate every time I have American guests. So we will have to see what happens.
Well, we're a troublesome lot, as I've said. We bring a whole host of tricks with us, and not all of them are good. So.
Now, do you think it has something to do with that, you know, Europe doesn't want any Americans at the moment to set foot?
Nobody wants
the whole
we don't want it. It's awful. They're gonna cut every cable from here to Kingdom Come to keep us trapped here. It used to be Australia. That's where you dumped all the ne'er-do-wells. Now it's gonna be America. They're gonna islandize us, and that's it.
In all fairness, just so people don't go like, oh, I love all Americans and all Australians except for Trump. But that's me personally. I don't like him. But
not a lot to like.
No, well, I could say the same for Boris Johnson. People know how I feel about him, so...
He's got great hair.
I think they have something in common there, so that might be it. Anyhow, let's talk about you. So, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about who you are?
Yeah, I go by Berzerker, and my real name doesn't matter. So, for all intents and purposes, that's how anybody has... ever known me around these Warcraft parts. Began playing way back, I think March of 2007. So I never saw the glory of vanilla in its heyday, but I did come in as a player at that time, and then played for many years until I got the podcast bug. It seems like a lot of us do. There's like 9,000 Warcraft shows now, and there's so many people. I'm like, who is this? Who is that? I'm sure there's people listening to this going, who the hell is Berzerker and what is Unshackled Fury? I've never heard of that podcast. Well, now I'm here to tell you. That's our podcast, Unshackled Fury. And I started doing that in late 2015. It was a solo gig. Did it by myself for about 2 years. Took a break for a year, then came back in 2018 with Navox, who's my co-host. And so we've been playing Warcraft and covering it all these years since. And I've been in the same raid team that is now its own guild for the last 7 years.
Ooh.
And we're a pretty tight bunch, and it's been awesome. And we're taking little breaks here and there to keep everybody fresh, but for the most part, it's been a fabulous ride, and now we're on the crest of another wave, and looking forward to what's coming next.
That's really good to hear. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Unshackled Fury. So it's been going on for a while. Why did you decide, you know what, instead of like a solo podcast, I want to have a host now? Was that something that just you decided when you came back to it, or was it something that you gradually thought, actually, I think it would be easier, sometimes because you sometimes hear that's easier to podcast when you're with a co-host, or how did that develop?
I think it is easier to some degree because you have immediate feedback almost, where you guys can bounce each other ideas or topics or different things. And you're a solo practitioner, and it's one of those things where it's all on you, right? You have to come up with all the questions, do all the editing, do all the talking, do all that stuff. It comes out of one single source, which is a great font of inspiration and creativity, but it can be helpful to have another person involved. I have a rampaging ego that's out of control. And so at one point I was really convinced. I was like, I could just do all of this by myself. I'm going to be better than everybody. It's going to be amazing. And it was not quite what I expected, to tell you the truth. I think I did a fairly decent job on my own, but really having that second voice there, I think it makes for a better show. Navox, as he goes in his full name, he brings another perspective. Somebody that's been around a little bit longer, someone who's had a different focus on his play, and there are things that he sees differently than I do. So just having those different viewpoints, I think, makes for a more engaging conversation, for a better show. So it was something that, as I had taken that break in 2017, 2018, I thought about bringing the show back. Part of it was born out of a lot of personal stuff that was happening at the time, and I just was too overwhelmed to balance everything, quite frankly. But as I was thinking about bringing it back, I'm like, man, Navox would be a really good person to bring back because with me, because he had been on a podcast stream called The Converted, which is a podcast stream about the Convert to Raid guild, and I'd known him through that because I was in that guild for a number of years, and that's how we met. And so he and I had kind of engaged just through that podcast community. And then as time went on, I was thinking about bringing the show back. I was like, man, Nav would be a really good guy. So I talked to him a couple times, said, hey man, if I brought the show back, would you be interested in doing it? He's like, hell yeah, I want to do it. Let's go right now. And so he was fired up from the beginning, and now it's been 2 years solid almost. And we go every 2 weeks or so. We do take breaks from time to time for vacation, or like recently we took some time off because with all of the protests and things happening in the United States and around the world, we really wanted to let that breathe and have time on social media and everywhere else, and we didn't want to inject ourselves in there. We thought that was a good time to let those voices be heard and not ours. So we'll do breaks for things like that. But right now we're back. We just had our interview with Madeline Rue. No, you had the pleasure of speaking with her as well, and just had that post last week, and she was fun to talk to. So we had that come up, and I guess we'll do another one next week. So, but yeah, Unshackled Fury. It's two warriors, but it's not a show about warriors, and I think that's kind of a misconception. And to tell you the truth, if I could have gone back, I should have named it something different, because I think people get the misconception that all we do is talk about warrior stuff. It's not. It's two warriors, two guys who play warriors, talking about Warcraft stuff. That's what it's about. From our perspective. So I don't know what I would have called it. Probably something stupid, but that was the best I could come up with. So yeah.
I like the name. The thing is, a lot of people have that with I think one of the hardest things for every podcaster out there is trying to find the name for your podcast, because either it's already been done or it's too similar to something else, and it's not easy. And I always say, like, when I I found the Blue Recluse podcast for the first time, I thought, that must be an RP podcast, because the Blue Recluse is always where everyone RPs, and it wasn't. But those are things that sometimes unintentionally, that's how you get listeners, because they see that and they're like, oh, is that? And then, they stay because they enjoy the podcast. And it's not just about either warriors or roleplay or anything else. So, no, I think the name is, especially because you're both two warriors, I think it's brilliant. I think that's a really good name.
Well, thank you. Well, I really love, there's three things about your show that I really love. One is your name. I think Whispers of War. That's a great fucking name. 2, your intro is amazing. Now we get a lot of praise for our sort of heavy metal song intro that we have, and it's great. But yours is fantastic, and anybody that puts the Lich King saying anything in there is phenomenal. And 3, I love the music that you play. While you got going, while all this is going on and there's music playing, I love your music. Great choices. Good job. I love it.
Thank you. I'll have to admit, none of it really is my credit. Because the title I got from, I think it was Lagerwolf who said, oh, this could be an amazing podcast title. And I thought, yeah, why not? So I used that one. So I completely owe that to the fans. And the second one, it sounds so horrible when I say the fans. It sounds so big-headed.
Well, you influencer, you. Oh, man.
Oh, I hate calling myself like that. Feels like I should have like an Instagram account with all these selfies.
That's right. I've seen them going like this with the the peace sign thing, and you're
the duck face, of course. I have to have the duck face
while you're doing yoga at sunrise.
Yeah, with my iced latte. I mean, and my little chihuahua and everything. I'm so generalizing. I'm so going to hell for this. But
that's what happens. You bring me on the show, I bring it down like 5 levels. I'm sorry.
It's fine. But yeah, I would never. I hate calling myself anything like that. I just always call myself just a person who sits in front of a microphone and talks.
Yeah,
that's what I do. But and then the second one, that really is Tom. Tom from Dragon Powered Studio and 3 Extra Lives. He is brilliant when it comes to making intros. He is so good. He did it with my previous one as well. And I knew that when I asked him, could you please make it for me, that I would get something brilliant. And I will never change it.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah, I can't but agree because he's so talented. But yeah, and the third one, well, I just rip everything from World of Warcraft and here, have some music.
That's what we do.
At least it feels like you're in the game.
Yeah, I like it, one, because, it just gives you kind of a fuller feeling to the experience of listening to the show. But 2, and I guess this is peeling back the curtain to some degree, it actually kind of covers up some of my editing fuck-ups. Mm-hmm. So I like that as well, because I'm not super heavy-handed about my editing, but there are lots of little things that just irritate me when I'm listening back, and little mouth noises and breathing and different stuff that, like right now I'm like, breathing into my mic. In the show that I do, I might edit that stuff out. I don't know, but I can also fiddle with it just enough for the music I know will cover it up. So that helps.
I think, you know what? I think that's a general podcaster thing. I think we all do that. It's like, at least you don't hear all the weird little sounds in between, or, yeah. No,
we all think we're so damn clever.
We've all found it out how to cover it up. So, it works. If it's not broken, don't fix it. It's fine.
Right.
It works this way.
That's right. Absolutely.
Right. Let's jump into your World of Warcraft history a little bit. But first, what we really want to know. Horde or Alliance?
Alliance all the way. 100%.
Ah. How come?
I'm so basic. See, I don't have some like real exciting story where I'm like, oh man, I saw these Forsaken one time and I just knew that that's what I had to be, or I saw these dwarves and I was like, bro, that's totally it. No, I just wanted to live out the very classic knight in shining armor fantasy. Like that is, in America where we don't have castles, at least not real ones or ones that weren't imported by really rich dudes. That's not something that is anything other than a fantasy from far, far away. And for me, it's sort of fulfilling that. What is an archetype of something that I want to do when I'm in a setting that I feel is a sword and sorcery kind of deal? And so the first character, the only main that I've ever had since 2007 was my human warrior, Berzerker. And that is all I have played with, dabbling with some alts. But that is really the significant character that I've played for now 13 plus years.
Okay, wow. Even because I'll be honest, I've played warrior for a few years in between as an alt, and I enjoyed Especially charging at things, because that's why I also used to like through it a lot. But when the class maybe not performed so well when there were patches, was it still something that you were like, I'll keep playing it, or were you like, okay, time for an alt?
See, here's the thing about dragging the meters, no matter what's going on, is I suck no matter what, so I don't have to worry about it. Like I don't worry about patch cycles in terms of like, I could be 5th on the chart or I could be last. I'm always last. I've already bottomed out, so that problem for me is solved. I just go for what feels good. Being a Fury warrior, wielding two-handers, when we got the ability to wield the two-handers in each hand, back when Wrath was hitting, that was like a revelation that I'm still just wrapping myself in. And so it's that kind of class fantasy that remains to be fulfilling to me. And that's really what it's about is, when we did the artifact weapon was kind of iffy, but the order hall was pretty sweet, hanging out with Odin and going and hanging out with all these, Vrykul and, all the stuff that was going on up in Skyhold. That was rad. I love that. That's really what my focus is more about the story and the feeling and, is this fulfilling the escapist fantasy that I need for a few hours a week? Is that really what it is? I mean, I've been part of the same raid team. I was their raid leader for a bit. I'm a little too ragey to be a raid leader, so thankfully I stepped down before the team died. And I'm comfortable with my role, just being the lowly warrior on the ladder and just kind of surviving these things as much as I can, and just having a good time. I mean, that's really what it is for me. And I don't know. I am not like super. Like, I'm not out there waving a banner anti-Horde, but I'm not real big fans, especially as of late. So, people that are, anti-Alliance people, I get it, because the same way. Same way, bro.
Does that mean you've never, ever played on the Horde side to see the story?
Nope.
Ooh, that is very interesting to me. That is very interesting.
And I realize that by doing so, I'm robbing myself of a significant chunk of the game. Like, I 100% understand that. But again, speaking as somebody who doesn't have one alt leveled to 120 right now, that's my jam. That's what I do. I've got a couple of, I liked your baby paladin. I also have a baby paladin that I've been working on, and that has been what I've been doing more recently, is trying to get that poor bastard up. But it's just, I don't care in a way. And I know that's terrible to say because there's a lot of good stuff there. I know because, I go through Wowpedia or these other places and I'll read the stories or I'll catch up using sort of ancillary or third-party sites. But I know it's not the same as playing through. And I know that I'm robbing myself by doing that. But if I can't even level my Alliance alts, I mean, there's no hope of me having a Horde character that's max level. There's no way.
I think it's, in all fairness, at the moment, we do get the XP buff, but it is still quite intimidating, as I can attest with, trying to level.
What do you have, like 50 now?
Oh,
I think you said 28 or 30 or something, but that's...
Yeah, it's a tragic number that I think we should quickly skip over.
Good for you. You're getting your money's worth. Never apologize for that. We're paying the same amount, and look at you. You're getting like 10 times the value.
I know. You tell that to my Steam library with everything that still needs to be played because I have no time. Because what it is.
As somebody who finally just finished Witcher 3, I feel you.
Yeah. I know. So many games, so little time. That's what it feels like with all these calls. But I get where you're coming from with all of that. And I also understand, like, for me personally, as I always say to people, I play Alliance because that's where my guild is. It's where I started. But when it comes to the Horde, that's where my heart is, just because I feel more with the storylines and with the races. And if that's how you're inclined with the Alliance, I do get that it's sometimes a struggle, and I have that sometimes with Alliance, that I'm like, okay, we're doing this again. If it's the same thing, and I just I'm not really enjoying it. But it's not a fun time to always level, and it's a slog at times, especially 120. Do you think that would be different when the changes settle in with Shadowlands? They have said it's going to be 3 times as fast, or are you like, nah, absolutely not?
it's encouraging me to level more alts. I will say is that the XP buff is crazy good right now, but looking at going to max level by only playing the content of one expansion, like that's pretty good. It's really hard to pass up, and you know, I think that the daunting nature of looking at 120 levels, they talk about, you know, bringing in new players and saying, "Ooh, that's a lot." Like, you know, new guy, new gal coming in. Like, what are they gonna do? I've been playing for 13 years, and I'm still like, no, ma'am, I'm not doing that. I'm sticking around, and I'm gonna level boost, or I'm gonna, you know, cheap out in some way. I mean, that's what I've done a couple of times. You know, I think that it's a great idea. I'm glad that they're doing it. It's time. You know, it's time for that. You know, for, you know, relevant to the conversation we were just having, is that could that get me to level in a horde alt? Maybe. I mean, it's the thing that I love about this game is that with the breadth and depth of its history, its characters, its stories, it's everything that goes on, there really is something for everybody. So, like yourself, you gravitate toward the horde, their storyline, what's going on with them. That's awesome. You found something that resonates with you, and you're able to grab it, run with it, go have a great time. For me, hanging around in Stormwind, just being a basic ass human, works for me. I like the way plate armor looks on it. Fabulous. Let's run off and kick some ass somewhere else. Like, that's part of, I think, what so many of us love, is that we're able to find those bits and pieces, whether you like raiding or pet battles, God forbid, or, you know, any other number of activities that you like, PvP. You know, there's all these things that you can do to keep yourself engaged and active in the game. And so I recognize that I do, like I said, cut myself off from a portion of that. So by leveling just through one expansion to get to the end, not only does that encourage me to do the side that I like to do, but that could very well get me to go, well, you know, what's the Forsaken up to now that Sylvanas is, you know, up in a puff of smoke?
Well, who knows? We'll have to talk about that once Shadowlands has been out for several months.
You know it.
All right, so I'm very curious. How did it start for you? Where did you start your love for World of Warcraft?
I have the most horrible origin story. It's
please do tell.
I don't have anything as sexy as, like, I was, you know, watching a tournament, or I had a friend, or my parent brought me in, or, you know, I was grandfathered by this, you know, wise elder or something like that. It was South Park. I watched the Make Love Not Warcraft episode, and I was like, what the hell is this? I think I know what this is. Have I heard about I remember Warcraft. They always had that battle chest at GameStop. What was that thing? Oh, yeah, the RTS. What is this? Oh, it has a 10-day trial. Oh, okay. My poor newlywed then wife. Oh, hey, sweetheart, I'm gonna go check out this 10-day trial. Oh, but we watched that episode. You know what's gonna happen to you? Nah. I'm just gonna check it out for 10 days, and, you know, whatever. I'll let the account lapse. And I haven't stopped playing since. It's
at least you knew what was going to happen.
Yep, I came in, I knew nothing. You know, and here's a game that's already been out for a couple of years. I didn't know jack shit. And I go in and I create a character, and I'm like, oh, I'm on this server. Oh, human warrior, that's me. I jump in, I'm in Elwyn Forest, and, you know, you're killing kobolds, poor bastards, and then you're off killing wolves. I go back to work the next day, and I'm sitting next to my buddy. I go, dude, you gotta come play this game with me. I'm like off in this forest, and I'm killing spiders and stuff. Come on, and like, here's my server, and you got to make a warrior. And then he gets in, and we've been playing together ever since. And he and I are still on the same team. And then at the time, he had a roommate. He brings his roommate in, so the three of us warriors are bouncing around in Elwyn, and you know, we don't have no idea what we're doing. You know, these are the days of still like thought, right? Like, you don't know how to go anywhere. You don't know how to do anything. I'm asking people, whoa, where'd you get that piece of gear? I ran a raid. Oh, what's that? It's this thing that you do with a bunch of other people. You don't know what that is? No, I don't know what that is. The first time I ever jumped in a raid was Karazhan, and I couldn't get Ventrilo to work. I mean, it took me a year to level the first time. This is catastrophe. Like, the whole first couple of years I played, it was just one disaster after that. I had no idea what I was doing until like 6 months ago. Really, you know, that's how I came in. And like, the first dungeon we ever ran was the three of us stupid warriors trying to do dead mines. No tanks, no healers, no nothing. Just three of us running in there going, I don't know what this is. It's this thing. And you go in there and it's got this flashy portal thing and you go in and then it's just the three of you. Oh, okay, let's go check it out. And we got our asses handed to us. Of course, because we were sitting there like bandaging after every fight. It was so dumb. But that's what we did and that's how we learned and it was fun. So,
in all fairness, I had a similar experience when at the time I was with the guy I was currently was dating back then, and he went like, "Oh yeah, there's the dead mines here. I think let's go check it out." And we were there in a group. It was like, "Oh, these things hit really hard. What is this?" It's just but that's a little bit of the charm, isn't it? From the beginning, that you're like, "Well, what is this? What does it do?" And what? I like those stories just because back when we were all ignorant and innocent.
Well, and that's, when people talk about Warcraft is such a nostalgia bomb. So many people, like even people that don't play anymore and haven't played in a long time, and then that's where with vanilla coming back or classic, sorry, that's where so many people are like, oh yeah, it takes you back. It's like that instant time travel kind of thing. But part of it, too, was that sense of wonderment and surprise because you didn't have Wowhead out there. And this is not a slight on them, but, there wasn't this mass data mining going on where every little secret and every little thing was known and where you had to go and who you had to talk to and where the drop was and what the rate of the drop was and all that other stuff. Like, we didn't have that kind of information. We didn't have shit. I mean, we had a couple of comment boards and some other things, but for the most part, you really had to go and figure it out. And when you have to do that, that world seems so much bigger. Like the original time that I was in, when I think of Elwyn Forest, no mounts, no directions, no nothing. It seemed enormous. The first time I saw Stormwind, I was like, what is this place? This is amazing. This is like a whole city. Holy shit. This is like a whole castle. There's all these people here. What is this? Like, I had no idea. And I didn't even know about capital cities. I didn't know about leaders of any factions. All I knew is I got, flown in on this, initial video with Earl Bowen doing the voiceover of like the human kingdom of Stormwind. Blah, blah, blah. I was like, whoa, this is amazing. It seems so much bigger and grander because we didn't know as much. And I think for me, I've held on to that to some degree by resisting the data mining and everything else because I still want that sense of surprise. I still want things to be like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen. The best example of that I can give too is Wrathgate. When you're questing through Dragon Blight in Wrath, very first time, had no idea what was going on. We get to that quest and my screen goes black. I thought my computer had crashed. I thought WoW had crashed, and I was about to reset my computer when the Wrathgate cinematic popped up, and I was like, what in the hell is this? This is amazing! Like, it just, my buddy and I are playing at the same time, and I mean, we are freaking out. And that's that magic for me, and that is what got its hooks in deep and early and still haven't let go.
That's really, really cool. When was that moment for you that you thought, okay, I will always play this game now. This will be the game for me. Is that the Wrathgate moment or?
Pretty much. I mean, I think that really cemented for me that was the first time I realized they're going to keep making things bigger and better and finding ways to make this experience even more amazing and mind-blowing, because at the time we didn't, we had the intro cinematics, the ones that we've always known and loved at the beginning of a game or expansion, and it's always been great. But seeing those in-game cinematics, you're like, wow, they're doing something new. And of course I was a huge mark for the Lich King, because anything that's like Arthurian legend, I'm all over it, like some like an idiot, but I'm all about it anyway. Cursed was great, by the way. I really loved that show as well. I was just like, wow, they're taking it up a notch, and they have ever since. And, credit to Taron Gregory and all the other folks on his team and every other team over there that have, spent all these sleepless days and nights making that stuff work, because that was it. That was really it. That was the moment where I'm like, whoa, this thing is just going to keep getting bigger.
Okay. With the release of Classic, did you feel the need to try it out and see what you felt about it, or?
Oh yeah, because I'd never seen it like in its truest form. In Burning Crusade, right? There's still a lot of stuff that was the same.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the exact same. And so being able to go in and see it with my own two eyes, it was pretty cool. I mean, I'm not gonna level the 60, and I'm not gonna go raid Molten Core. I'm not doing any of that stuff. But just to get in there and be like, yeah, that's right. I remember how slow all of this was, and I remember kind of how some of these things looked. Seeing Westfall before it was completely destroyed by the Cataclysm. Seeing some of these other things. Again, it was really nice, as in that nostalgia bomb kind of way, to relive some of those things. And I totally get why people love it and dig it and want to just stay in that world. I don't fault them one bit for that. But for me, it's tourism, 100% tourism, just to see it and go, yep, I remember that. Nope, I'm out. I need them out.
Yeah. I'm very much the same. There are some things that I find very charming about Classic, and there are things that I'm like, no can do. I don't have the patience.
That's right. Everybody likes being out in the middle of nowhere when you need a breather, but nobody likes using an outhouse. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
Modern conveniences have their advantage.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely agree. Okay. Going back to BFA, what would you say is your current obsession to do in game? What is the thing that you really spend most of the time doing now?
Right now, it's actually leveling I'm going to use your term, my baby paladin. I have a couple of characters. Really, I have my main warrior, and then I have a paladin and a DK that I've kind of towed along over the years. And right now, it's the paladin, and really what that is one, because the XP boosts right now are just so freaking crazy. So between that and rested time, I blew through 100 to 110 in, I don't know, like a few hours. It was ridiculous. But the other thing is that, especially with the paladin, and why I chose that is, it sounds like there's going to be some loosening of restrictions when it comes to artifact transmogs, and the Ashbringer is still one of like the greatest all-time Warcraft weapons, especially from a lore perspective. And so really what I'm interested in is getting more artifact appearances for that Ashbringer. So being able to get the sort of pseudo-corrupted Ashbringer appearance that they have now, some of the other ones in there, that's really what the focus is. Leveling is kind of like the means to the end on that, just so I can actually get into a battleground, because part of the Ashbringer-esque appearance is you have to get something out of Alterac Valley, and good luck getting into a queue for one of those when you're not max level. So that's really been the push. My raid team has been taking a break since we got our achievement, our ahead of the curve achievement. Just a heroic team, not any mythic craziness, but we did get that achievement, so took a little bit of a break. And we're actually going to start doing some achievement runs, I think, this coming week. So we'll start up doing that, and that'll be fun. And just kind of hanging out with the team and just kicking back and having some good times and trying to forget about the world for a while, as they say. So that's really what the focus has been.
Okay, that's not a bad thing to do, I think, especially in these times that we're dealing with nowadays. Okay. With everything that is happening in the future, so let's go a little bit to Shadowlands. How do you feel about Shadowlands? Things that they've said so far, or like I said before the podcast, I'm always happy to talk about spoilers if people want to, and we'll give people a heads up that the spoiler might be coming. But what are your feelings regarding Shadowlands? Do you have high hopes? Because I know, especially in the last couple of weeks, it seems that the general consensus of how people look at Shadowlands has changed a little bit. Everyone seemed very positive, and then there was a certain interview, and people got a little bit more like, ooh, I'm not quite sure if this is going the way that it should be going.
Which interview was that?
That was the interview with Ian and Preach. when they talked about the covenants and all of that people were a bit like, oh, I don't know if that's what we want.
I must be missing out. What are people having a big problem with?
Oh, I think it was the like I said, sometimes this is a confession time as well. I don't do well with things that you need to calculate that this is how you get the best DPS out of all of that kind of stuff, like with corruption that we have nowadays. It just goes into one ear and it goes out immediately on the other. I'm like, I have no fucking clue what you're talking about. I don't care.
Yes. We are kindred spirits in this.
That's not fun for me. That doesn't fall under fun. But I can easily admit that for some people that is fun, and I'm happy to, if you put systems like that in the game, of course people are going to look at, well, how can I make that to work for me and for my class? And there is theory crafting on the internet about how to do the best DPS and what builds you need. That already happened as soon as you have talent trees. So from the gist that I got is that you get certain abilities with your covenant. Some abilities are even better than others, but if you want to switch your covenant, that is going to come with a penalty, a sort of. You're being a little bit punished if you switch, and then you go, actually, no, I want to go back to my previous covenant. It's almost like, oh, you have to frickin' work hard for that.
Yeah.
And people were not happy with that. I think also because, I guess, if I have to theory craft a little bit, I'm sure there are reasons, like much better reasons on the internet, but from my point of view, it would be a bit like, well, classes change with patches, hot fixes. I'm sure that they will change things in covenants as well with certain abilities, which will make certain raiders want to go, you know what, I want to change this. And it could be a massive slog to get where you want to be at that point in time. And I know there's something also with points to spend in your covenant to get like more abilities or extra points for damage. It's all that stuff that I'm like immediately like my eyes glaze over a little bit like, what?
No, I don't pay attention to that shit either. No.
So there is a little bit, I all of a sudden I saw this shift go in the community, like, oh yeah, it sounds amazing. It sounds really like, oh no, we don't like this. We really don't like this. And I'm not talking for everyone, but I just saw Twitter change all of a sudden. So I was
a reactionary fan base? What are you talking about? That's crazy talk. No way.
I think it's good that the community is very vocal about what they want because, Blizzard is asking for it. So
that's right.
You're going to get an opinion. It's as simple as that. But it has left me a little bit like, well, I'll be happy in Shadowlands because, you know what, I'm playing it for the story and the RP and for my own characters and the art style. That's what I love.
Oh, yeah.
If I do shit DPS, come on, I play a subtlety rogue, so I already know about shit DPS anyway, so, I'm like,
I'll race you to the bottom.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I don't care anymore. But I understand that some people find it really important. And when you see all of that, what are your feelings? I mean, what were your initial feelings regarding Shadowlands before all of this?
It's same as it's always been, which is I'm super pumped about it. And
okay, good.
In terms of what do we say this? And for sake of full transparency, the only time I have not been excited about an expansion was Mists of Pandaria. Because when that got announced, I was so mad. I was done. I was like, I quit. They're making this thing about pandas. Like, this is dumb. Like, I can't believe they're doing this. There's so many different things they could do. And holy Lord, have I never been so wrong in my whole life, because that is still one of the best expansions they ever made. So I completely admit I blew it on that one. And I have generally been pretty high on expansions ever since. Warlords might have been a little bit more tepid, but I still thought the concept was really neat. I mean, I was probably one of the few that was like, well, bringing back some of the old folks, seeing what they're up to in their prime, that might be cool. But I'm really pumped about this for a few reasons. And one of them is I like the idea of the covenants. I think that that's an interesting choice. It's something that's a little bit different and a little bit the same. It's similar to other things that we've done in the past, but it's a new take. And for me, it should be a difficult decision. You shouldn't be able to just just willy-nilly changing covenants. No, it's supposed to be an impactful choice. I agree with them. It should be hard. Like, I get it. You want to be able to min-max and, you're not going to be able to raid and you're not going to be able to do these things. Well, you know what? That's a problem with that environment. That's not a problem with game design, in my opinion. If we're so focused on like the 1% of players who have to play this super crazy hardcore way, that's the wrong way to go about it. I don't think that's what that should be. If you have a game where you can only play one character, and that's like me, if you play the game like I do, all right, I guess some more flexibility may be something that might be interesting, but you can play alts. Let the alts see the other stories if you're interested in that kind of thing. Like, it's supposed to be an RPG. You should make choices and then live with them and then go forward in the game. Like, for me, I'm fine with that. I never wanted to change from Aldor to Scryer in Burning Crusade. I could. It was a long slog. I had no interest in doing it. Now, some people would say, well, it's because there was really no difference. And that's true. There wasn't much of a hook to want you to get the change. But you're going to get the opportunity to play through all 4, see what all the covenants are about, see which ones you vibe with, see what their abilities are. And I have a feeling that most people, after playing through them, are going to say to themselves, this is what resonates with me. This is the one that I'm going to do because that's where I want to spend the next 2 years, is with this group. Then you have the folks that, their jam is that, I'm min-maxing and I want to be the top and the best, and this is preventing me from doing these things. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for you, but that's the minority of players, and I don't think that that's the way that the game design should be. And a lot of this vocal minority stuff, I mean, get it out there, get it on the forums, let Blizzard know, because this is the time to tell them, because they're asking for this stuff. But I think that it's fine. I have no problem with it. So that's something I think will be an ongoing saga, let's say, during this expansion, because I'm sure it will change and people will complain, and the noisier parts and the squeakier wheels are going to get some love. I don't doubt it. And they'll be like, see, they loosened it up because they were wrong. Well, okay, fine, you win, whatever. But the other part for me is the story. Big lore is my jam. That's the thing. Like I said, I don't give a shit about numbers. I just care about, where is the story going? What are we doing? I've been waiting for the second half of the whole Bolvar Lich King thing, like everybody else, for 10 years, right? And going, what's going on with the Lich King? In Legion, there was some stuff that wasn't cool that the Death Knights were doing to the Paladins, and you're like, whoa! Something's wild. Something wild is happening up there, and so I've been waiting to see, for me personally, like, what's going on with all of that stuff. But going into the Shadowlands on a much larger context, right? It's opening up the Warcraft cosmos in a way that we haven't seen yet, and now we're talking about, and this is a little bit of a spoiler. Jump ahead 5 seconds. Multiple Night Warriors from different planets. Whoa. That's cool. What does that mean?
It's like the Green Lantern, but, darker.
Right? Knowing that there are, skip ahead another 5 seconds, multiple pantheons. What does that mean? What does that look like? Where else are they? It's crazy stuff. It's big stuff. And that really gets me excited about the game. Because, one, it speaks to, they're thinking about these things. They're trying to fill in all these gaps, which is a hard chore to do when you're dealing with a bunch of us nerds that want everything cataloged, and we need to know the history about every cup and plate and dish and character, and like, I want to know everything about everything. Trying to fill that in, that's tough. But it's also that it gives us opportunity in the future, and it's showing that, because I've heard people saying, well, when we get to level 100. Game's gonna end. Why would the game end when we get to level 100? That's arbitrary number. Like, why? Well, we've run out of places on Azeroth. There's nowhere else to go. I'm sure they'll find other places to go. Like, it's just, they're so many steps ahead of us, and I love it, especially when it comes to the storytelling. Now, they don't always hit a home run. sometimes, like in BFA, I think it got a little more muddled than they probably intended. But as far as like the long term goes, they're already working 2 or 3 expansions ahead, right? So that's what gets me. Like, what are we doing in the Shadowlands? What's going on with the Jailer? What in the hell is happening with Sylvanas? What is the freaking plan, man? Because it feels like we've all been led down this road chasing a wild goose. Let's get the goose. What's the goose doing? What is happening here? We can't just wrap her in plot armor forever. Like, there has to be a resolution to this thing at some point. How did Bolvar get that sweet hammer? I want it. Where'd he get it? It's badass. All the other little stories. Who are the characters we're gonna see? All that stuff. Like that. That's what gets me jazzed. That's what I'm excited about. Covenant choice. It's the thing to pitch a fit about of the day. And it's like Azerite. People crazy about Azerite gear. You know what? Is it a great system? No, it's not the greatest system in the world. Is there a reason to quit a game? No. Just you slog through it like everybody else, and then you move on and do the stuff you like to do.
I think, looking at it from Blizzard's side, it will always be difficult because there's a thing also with class balance that will also be very, very difficult. Then you have all these different play styles, you have covenants, and to balance everything out, I mean, it's harder than I think. A lot of people just go like, well, I don't understand it, and I'm like, well, that's why you don't work for Blizzard, probably, because I don't want to say that Blizzard is flawless, because they have dropped the ball with certain things. But sure. I mean, I don't think they want to kill their own company. So, they are trying to do what they can, but I do think that they have different visions at time than the players do. Because I do think, being someone who creates a game, you have a different vision than a player playing the game at times, with what your goal is for the game. Sure. And I think that at times that is where it doesn't always click. And I don't think they always see that until someone says in the community, no, we don't like that. And if only so that they don't have tunnel vision. And I think, it is important for the community to be vocal about it. But I also sometimes feel that the community needs to cut them a little bit of slack, because it is still a big feat. I mean, it's a game that's over 15 years old now. And there are a lot of competitors out there on the market who gladly snack people away for their subscriptions or even just games. So, yeah, it's not an easy thing. But it's always easy to criticize something when you're on the sidelines.
Oh yeah, and imagine that you've been in, however many meetings, and you're going over plans and you're doing all this stuff, and you got all your stuff on a whiteboard, and then you go in and your team's busting this out, spending hundreds of hours putting something together, and then you put it out to the world, and people just shit all over it, just wreck it. Like it. I couldn't do it. Like, I don't know how they do it. And I imagine that, burnout, I know that burnout is a real thing in that industry, but I just don't know how you handle it, because for me, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. And, you're right in the sense that they can be somewhat narrow in their view. Like, this is who we're trying to create for, and whoever's vision that is, I think drives a lot of it, whether that's, Ian Hazzakostas, whether that's somebody, one of the top level, people that drive the game. Part of it too, though, and be careful about how I say this, I guess. Part of it is the feedback that they get. And there is a very targeted, narrow view of players that are the ones that have, I'd say, the most recognized voices. And those seem to be the ones that get the most attention. And I think that when you look at a player base of literally millions of people, like what is the majority? What does the average player look like or do? I don't know that we really know, but what I do know is that the ones I see commenting the loudest and the most are, known personalities. And those seem to be the ones that, get the attention. And I don't know if that's always the most healthy thing for the game. So that's why, at least on our show, we're always telling, like, if you listen to our show and you get in the beta, freaking get out there on the forums or tag folks on Twitter or do whatever you got to do. Get your voices out, because now is the time. I'm telling you, now is the time for everybody. And if, they see 90% of, average Joe Schmo like me is going, well, this thing kind of sucks. And you got the top 1% folks go, oh, we love this thing. I really hope that they listen to the vast majority of people go, this kind of stinks, or vice versa. So but it's tricky. It's an impossible act. I don't envy them at all. It's, everybody complains about balance. I don't know who could.
It's always going to be, I think with anything that you do, it's going to be very, very difficult. And I mean, there are so many memes out there about classes and their balance and everything. We know this now, but give me a game where the balance of any class is all, like if you look at Guild Wars, if you look at Elder Scrolls or anything like that, they all have their issues, because you just have to type in which is the best class for random MMO. People always say, don't play this class because it's garbage. And
that's right.
There will always be something like that, and it's just it's crap. That is the class that you like. Yep. All you can do is hope that they will sort of fix it in future patches, I guess. But yeah, it's a tricky one. And I'm with you. For me personally, I think Shadowlands story-wise seems really interesting to me. But as soon as anything goes about covenants and the balance and things like, I'm just going, do I want to be a vampire? Or do I want to go to Dark Elves? I don't know. That's all I'm looking at.
That's right. That is the important decision. Whether or not it does 10 more DPS, no, who gives a shit?
I think, unless you're in limit, I don't think it matters that much. Unless you're raiding for money and you need to win prizes, I don't think you really need to care.
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't, but we know how this goes.
Yeah, true, very true. Well, talking about covenants, for your human warrior, have you already thought a bit like, looks-wise, this is what would fit?
Yeah, I mean, I'm leaning Kyrian. I think that's, a pretty, again, going back to this very classic knight in shining armor thing is sort of my North Star, I guess. It has that sort of look, that polished look, silver and blue and gold, and it's also kind of, it's a very Alliance-ish sort of vibe to it, which I enjoy. But I think the thing about it is, and again, especially now when we're, I don't know, 90 days away from an expansion release would be my guess. I have to see the story. I have to see how it plays out. And I'm a terrible beta tester, and I've said this a few places. Like, I'm in the beta, but I'm not really in the beta all that much, because I want the surprise. I want to know. I want to play it when it's in real time, one. But two, as I've said to other folks before, is that the first time I ever got beta was in Cataclysm, and I played the shit out of that beta. And by the time the game time came around, I was done. I was like, I don't want to do this again. I've already done this like 5 times, and I've seen 50 different versions of this zone, and now I can't remember which ones. There are still quests that I'm confused about today because I played them in the beta version, and they changed, and I'm like, wait a minute, wasn't this somewhere? Oh, fuck. I can't remember where I'm supposed to be. Like, I'm not smart enough to keep that straight, so I part of it's just helping myself out. But yeah, I'm leaning Kyrian, but the Night Fae also looks really interesting. So, do
you think your covenants, say that you do level the baby paladin, or maybe even another character? So if your alts are up to level and they could pick a covenant, do you think that it would be still the same covenant because of aesthetics, or are you like, you know what, just in case, for instance, it's a druid, it fit much better with the Night Fae, for instance? Is that how you would pick it, or would you really go like, no, it doesn't matter what class they are, I'm just going with this covenant because this covenant is what I like?
I would say that, assuming I'm leveling characters in Shadowlands, I will probably designate one for each covenant so I can see the story. And I'm, easy to put a DK through, Revendreth or whatever. Maybe the Paladin will go through Ardenweald. Ardenweald. How are we saying this?
I think it's something like that.
Something
Anything
like
goes, I think.
I barely pronounce English, so it's all right. Forget it. And then my other DK that I it's not even a real DK. It's a class trial that I kind of half bailed on. So he's sort of in there, but he's sort of not. He might get bumped up. I don't know. Somewhere there'll be a fourth character, and I'll check out the last one. Maldraxxus, right? I'll probably kind of go that way just so I can see the stories, because for one, it sounds like the Night Face story is going to be very heavily tied to Tyrande, and I really want to see what happens there because we've been waiting for that payoff for a long time. I'm really worried about what's going to happen to her because she seems like she's kind of going off the deep end, and I don't know. I want to see something good happen for that character and for the Night Elves after everything that's happened. Yeah, hard to say, but I will probably find a way to wedge both where I need an alt for a Covenant. Let's say which one kind of makes the most sense and just shove them off that way. That's probably how I'll do it.
Okay. And in regards to levelings, say that you have to start all the way from the beginning, and we already talked about it a little bit with that you can go through one expansion now. Say that, for instance, you pick a hunter, and if I grab anything like a mecha gnome hunter, would you go, okay, you know what? Because of this race or class, this is the expansion that fits the best? Or are you going, no, I want to go with this expansion because I just love this expansion?
Probably more of the second. I God bless Des Mephisto, our warrior buddy, but there is no chance in hell I'm looking at a stopwatch while I'm leveling. That's just not. I'm not planning it out. I don't know where I am half the time. That's part of the problem I have with my 112 paladin right now, is that I'm not even really sure where to go right now because I've got 5,000 texts or quests that I got, and I'm looking through all the texts and I'm like, I'm not really sure what's going to be the best thing for me to do right now because it just got blown up at 110, and yeah, I don't worry about any of that. So it's probably going to be Wrath because Wrath is the best expansion. Anyone can fight me on that. Don't at me. But that's my jam. Maybe Battle for Azeroth. Maybe Warlords because I really liked the leveling through there. But probably Wrath just so I can hang out in Grizzly Hills.
I do hear Wrath and Pandaria seem to be the popular ones.
Yeah.
For a lot of people. Even though I have to admit that now that I've gone back to Warlords of Draenor content, I'm actually quite enjoying it because I haven't been there in such a long time.
It's good.
And that's actually quite nice.
It's good. That poor expansion has been savaged, and in some ways rightly so, but the leveling experience was really good. It was really good. Yeah.
And actually, because you're also very much into the story, I discussed this is me derailing it, and again from the interview questions. But I'm really curious because I talked to this about other friends in the podcasting world, and for me, it always seems like you can shit as much as you want on certain expansions. I do think that every expansion has brought something to the table of World of Warcraft, especially lore-wise. However, and I felt that way ever since, I think for me, Pandaria. They start off story-wise really strong, really engaging. And then somewhere halfway through, I'm a little bit like, what now? What? And or it goes a little bit like, huh? Or you're like, this is a very like weird turn that we're taking, and for instance, like for me, the N'Zoth fight, it felt very much like, is this it? This is where the story ends?
I hated it.
It just, and I know that some people say, oh, there's more going on. I got to hope that there will be more.
Yeah.
But I always feel like it fizzles out a little bit at the end of an expansion. And then you get a great book that sets it up again. But I just feel like the stories in the game are not, they're not ending in a strong way as I would like them to at times. And I'm just wondering if, because story is important for you, if I'm just the only one who feels that way, or if you've also experienced it at times.
No, I don't think you're alone, and I think that is, and this is something that Ian Hazzikostas has addressed in one of their recent little chit chats, is that they haven't done as good a job of trying to tie all of this stuff together consistently through the run of an expansion. And we talked about this some time ago on our show where we laughed about BFA, quote unquote, not being an old god expansion. Like, we all knew where it was going. Like, we all knew, like, you can try to fake us out, you can try to play coy, like, I get it. But we knew we were going to end up there. But instead, it was all very much, and it's funny now because going back with the Paladin and doing the early leveling of BFA, it's, you know, on the Alliance side anyway, it's all, you know, Jaina and going to Borealis and seeing the Proudmoors and doing all that kind of stuff, and that pretty much fizzled out after you got through the leveling experience. You know, it didn't carry all the way through. Yeah, we were doing the war campaign, and you know there was that kind of stuff going on, and then eventually we got into the old god voidy stuff, which we knew we were heading to. But there was disjointed storytelling in there, and I think people can choose how harsh or not harsh they want to be. I'm on the less harsh side, but I do agree that it wasn't as cohesive as I think we wanted. Mm-hmm. I think that they recognize that. And you're right, going back and looking through the expansions, you get with that big rush of energy right out of the gate. You got the big, cinematic, and we know where the story is, and we know where we're going. Sometimes we don't always know why we're going there unless we read the pre-expansion novel. But we're going, and we're heading out, and we're doing the thing, and we got the leveling, and woo, that's great. And then, patch X.2, X.3 come out, and you're like, I mean, I see where we're going, but how? Boy, that's a tenuous connection to where we just were. So, no, I think that your criticism is well founded, and I think that many of us share that to varying degrees. And I hope that as we go through Shadowlands, now that we know who the end boss is, I guess I like it when we do that. Like, I like knowing that the Lich King was the last guy. That I'm like, this is the buildup. Like when people complained, oh, we saw him too much while we were leveling. Fuck that. Give him to me every 5 minutes. I want him showing up on every quest going, hey, you can't be here. What are you guys doing? Like, I need that. I want that. Give him to me. I want to see that bad guy. I want to feel that presence. I want to feel, whatever danger that is happening until we get to the end, because that feeling at the end when you overcome that final fight, it's the best. It's as a raider, it's just so rewarding to be like, yes, we finally kicked that guy's ass. Like, it's so good. And when my team, the team I was with when we were in Wrath and we downed Lich King, we were a 25-man team, and when we downed him, it's like the greatest catharsis. Like, we did it. We beat it. We got the guy. I think that's kind of how we feel in life too. Like when somebody wrongs us or somebody wrongs somebody else, and you're I'm not saying vengeance is the greatest thing, but you want some sense of justice in your life. You want to see that wrongdoers are punished, and when that happens, you're like, yeah, fuck it, we got him. Like that. You want to feel that, and I want to feel that as a player. And I'm like, N'Zoth, okay, he's an old god. All right, cool. He's making Anduin punch Wrathion, whatever. Okay, I got it. It's not quite the same. Like Ajara gets away. Like, what the fuck, man? Like, we've been waiting forever to see her, and she just nopes out into a portal. Like, oh, come on. So there is some of that where I'm like, I need a little more resolution, and I hope that with Shadowlands we get that. But again, to your point earlier, whose lens are they looking at this through? And that will drive it. And how will that story take us from here to there? Because part of the other change too is that these stories now overlap. Where it used to be the story was contained within one expansion, so everything happened beginning to end. Now there's these overlaps where one story feeds into the next. And I wonder if that's part of the problem too, where they have to kind of keep linking these together in some way, and so maybe they're losing some steam. But yeah, I agree. There definitely could be more cohesiveness there.
Yeah, it's like I said. I think with Wrath, like you said, some people complained about seeing Arthas all the time, but at least the main villain. And okay, we got Ulduar later on, but even so, it was you got a good ending in a sense of, okay, yeah, this is now a chapter that we can close everything on. And with a lot of things, it just started like when we went to Pandaria and everything, and the whole thing with Garrosh that happened. But I kind of lost my fizzle there when he started eating like the heart of a shot, and I thought, I don't really care anymore now because this is so weird. What are we doing? Yeah, there was a lot of stuff that I was just, and they do tend to pick it up again with certain things that you're like, oh, this is actually really cool. But I think like the overall stories at times just make me go a little bit like, started off so strong, then.
Yeah, and for each of us, right, those of us that pay attention to the story, I think we all have threads too that we pick up on. And we're like, I really want to see the resolution to X thread. And if that doesn't happen, I feel like a ball was dropped. For a lot of people, that's Tyrande. Like, what's going on with her? You freaking burned down the giant tree. The Night Elf home is gone. And what has happened since? Well, spoiler alert for the book. Fast forward 10 seconds. We see her and she's just kind of mad, but she doesn't really do anything.
I found that very, very odd. Maybe there, I guess you could explain certain things, but I felt like she was a little bit disconnected from her people. Yeah. Does that make sense?
It's all inside right now. And again, it's to me, it feels like the Sylvanas thing. Like, what? Where are we going?
Yeah, exactly.
What's happening?
And I'm sure that they will, like, again, they don't want to, I understand that they don't want to give it all away, which is fine. But for me, at times, I get so annoyed, like, you see Khadgar for a whole expansion constantly, everywhere. Yeah. And then all of a sudden he's like, well, where the fuck is he now? I don't understand. Where is he now? Is he on holiday? I just don't get it. Yeah,
Dadgar's off in Karazhan smoking a pipe and reading some of Medivh's old books. You're like, what happened? Like, where'd you go, dude? Like, we're in big trouble now. Did you not see the hole that got ripped in the sky? Like, get your head in a bubble and get your butt up here. Like, what is happening? Like, it's just, I don't know. But that's their choice, right? And I know for me...
But it's odd if you have, like, really strong characters that you're like, okay, but now they're not present for this anymore. I'm like, that would kind of go against their nature, wouldn't it? Like, they've been so active in one expansion and now they don't give a shit anymore. It's just...
And I'm glad that you said that, because if there is one Horde character I do pay a lot of attention to is Thrall. Mm-hmm. And seeing him now coming back into the fold, and I feel like it's this very Luke Skywalker-esque role for him, where it's like, I realize now that my legacy is failure, and I'm gonna come back and try to figure out how to help. Because if you look at, and he's very forthright about it, especially in that cinematic where he's talking about, picking Garrosh was a terrible idea. Why? Like, I remember when that happened. I'm like, the guy that Varian fought in the tower in Dalaran, what the hell? But that's the choice that they made, and it, took them down this long road. And so, like, for Thrall, I'm excited to see, like, what happens to Big Daddy Metzen. I mean, Thrall. Like, where does he go from here? Because I like seeing that character come back, and it makes sense that he would. And, Saurfang had to go drag him back, but it's good that he's back. I like that he's back. So that's a thread I'm curious about, too.
Yeah, exactly. I think, the like, all the credit to Madeline with how she wrote the book, because I know that a lot of people go like, oh, it's filler or nothing really happens. But for me, that's like, well, yeah, you shouldn't have like major things happen in a book, because that's not fair to people who can't afford a book. Even I know that's for some people it sounds daft, but not everyone has the financial.
I heard your saga, like $50 to get that thing bought and shipped. Screw that.
Yeah, I haven't done that in the end. I thought. No, because they were already late. Holland has let me down yet again. So I thought, okay, let's not do that.
Well, at least they have a soccer team.
That's true, very true. I thought, I like how this story does make you very enthusiastic about the characters and really gives you more insight in the characters, and you want to know what happens to them in the expansion. And I think for anything that we get, at least, I do feel more hyped for this expansion, just because I want to know what's going to happen. Maybe not even so much over the overall story, but just to see where the characters now are having their place in all of this.
I have so many questions.
Yeah, me too.
So many questions. And I feel bad for Madeline, because when we asked her, as I think everybody else did, we're asking her questions about, what happened in the book. And, to her credit, she was pretty straightforward about it, saying, well, I said this because they told me to, and I don't know anything other than this. I just had to put it in. And you're like, God damn, she doesn't know either. She wrote the book. We're all going to find out together. It's just, it is that terrible balance they have to strike between, do you have a book that sets everything up, and then people show up and go, why are we going back in time to Draenor? Or you have, okay, yep, rip the hole in the sky, let's go. And then you're like, oh yeah, and by the way, like some other stuff happened kind of before that. It doesn't, you don't have to know it, but it fills in some context. Oh, okay, cool, I'll check it out. You have to pick one. And I think that, yeah, you're right. Erring on the side of it's not necessary, but it's you can appreciate more of the lore if you read it.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's where I agree with you on. It just, it rounds up the characters a little bit more for me. Makes them more like tangible as characters.
I know a hell of a lot more about Talanji and Zakan than I ever wanted to know.
Yeah, and especially because you haven't really played Horde.
That's right.
Because I don't want to, but maybe I can push you as a lore nerd reasonably into that direction. I have to admit, when people ask me, I do feel like the Horde storyline is much stronger in BFA than the Alliance storyline. It is much more like I was watching Game of Thrones and just realizing what was happening, and I thought, this is really cool.
I have heard that, and it is the one and only reason that you would ever get me to level a Horde character is lore related reasons, and I will stick to that to the grave.
Okay, well, let me rail it back into the crushes that we still have. Talking about Horde and Alliance, how do you feel now that, and I know that it's very fragile, the piece that we have at the moment. I call it like how do they call it in the book? What is it again? The thing that the Alliance and the Horde have agreed to?
Like a peace agreement or an armistice?
Yeah, it's not like a parlay, but something like that. I can't remember what they called it, but how do you feel about where they stand now? Because there's not a big faction war at the moment.
See, this is where it gets tough, because intellectually you have to balance gameplay versus lore. And, again, when we were, going back, a couple of BlizzCons now, remember those? Remember when we used to have BlizzCon? When they showed the Battle for Azeroth cinematic, and none of us knew what it was. It was a complete surprise, and I was pretty pumped. I was like, holy shit, there's Anduin, and he's doing a thing, and then there's Sylvanas just blowing some stuff. God. Watching all that, I was pretty excited about it, and immediately you see people going, oh God, they can't, a faction war, we all know it's going to get resolved, and people just pitched a fit about it. Here's the thing. We're going to resolve all of these things that we play through. That's how this works. But it's the experience of the story, right? Like, at times there's going to be faction conflict, and you play through that, and you see what that story is. It's all this is storytelling. It's a fancy form of storytelling. We get to participate in the story. That's why I like to play it, because I like to read sort of sometimes. Like, I can read, And when I go through stories, I'm a passive observer. I'm reading The Lord of the Rings to my young son. We are not active participants in the story. We are observers. In Warcraft, you get to be in the fucking story. That's awesome. But you're in the story. The story is going to play out, so you gotta follow along. So sometimes factions are going to fight. Sometimes they're going to have a tepid peace. I think factions are good. I know apparently it's controversial to say these days, but I like that there's a Horde and there's an Alliance, and you have folks that feel like they've banded together for historical reasons, and that's their group. Okay, cool. I'm fine with that. I think a third, like, Pandaren-ish neutral faction is not a terrible idea in the real world, but I don't know that works for gameplay. Because talk about imbalance. If you can let people just flip-flop or pick a Third Avenue, like, forget it. That's never. It's just from a gameplay perspective, it would be nice. I don't know how they do it. They're also way smarter about this than I am, so maybe they figure out a way, and that introduces a new dynamic of people who have split off and now want to be, whatever this, I don't know. We got blue, we got red. They could be, I don't know, yellow or green, whatever color they pick. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I just don't know how that works. So for me, I'm fine with kind of where everything's at right now, but you also know you've got Tyrande looking for vengeance. You've got Talanji looking for vengeance. You've got maybe some things happening with Anduin. Maybe some things happening with Gen. Maybe some things happening with other parts of the Horde. Like there's all these little fires, all these little embers going around, and no pun intended for the Night Elves. And at some point, that could start another conflict. And it's just it is, I think, quintessential to World of Warcraft that you have conflict between your factions. It's great when we can go peace, love, kumbaya, and go fight the Legion, but that's not always going to be the case, and I'm cool with that. Either way, there has to be some give and take. There's a balance. It's like when remember Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Mm-hmm. They had to contractually agree that the Warner Brothers characters and the Disney characters had the same number of lines and the same exact amount of screen time or something like that, right? Had to be split 50-50 right down the middle. It's the only way that they could get these people to agree to do this movie. With Warcraft, I think they try to do something like that, but the ebb and flow of the story is going to go... The pendulum's going to swing one way, and then the pendulum's going to swing the other way. And like with Shadows Rising, very Horde-centric story. Before the Storm, very Alliance-centric story. I personally still feel like because Wrath of the Lich King was a very human Alliance story, we're paying for that forever, and no one's ever going to hear from them ever again. And that's fine. There's plenty of stories to tell. But there's always going to be that push and pull, and I accept that. I embrace that. I am fine with it. I am Alliance through and through. You could have 50 factions. I'm still Alliance. It doesn't matter. So keep the peace for now. We'll jump into Shadowlands. We'll go find some, some Jedi ghosts, and we'll figure it out.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think it's difficult, isn't it? Because I do feel like sometimes they contradict themselves a little bit, because there is a lot of history of war between two factions, and if anything, you saw that in the book. Vengeance is a very big motivator for any kind of faction war. Yep. However, then I think back of Sourfang going, we need to break the cycle. And I'm like, yeah, but that will never fucking happen. That will never happen.
And he's also more Horde side. For me, I'm looking at Tyrande or Anduin, because with everything that happened with Sylvanas, remember, go back to when we knew that Teldrassil was going to get burned down, and people flipped out. People are still flipping out about it. And they're like, this is not my Horde, no pauldrons, # no pauldrons, whatever, all that stuff that was going on where people were protesting and freaking out. And I remember they said at the time, don't worry, the story be told, things will balance out. Where I'm like, well, if one of your faction leaders went and blew up their own house and then burned down one of the other factions, and they're going to be something evened out here, then that means one of the Alliance folks is going to get loose and go nuts at some point. And I there's a healthy list of characters who could be responsible for that, and it would be impossible, especially for somebody that has a strong personality. I think with Talanji, I think Talanji's a great leader, and for the Horde, she's already listen, I need Proudmoore blood. They got it coming. And then let's say you get some other thing that's coming on. I think that she could be a really strong force to be like, listen, we can't sit here and take this shit. We got to do something. And off we go again. Fighting on Argus and blowing up the remains of God knows what place. It won't take much, but it's still probably a couple years away.
Yeah, probably. Or a patch. You never know.
War Campaign Part 5. Patch it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. let's take it to something perhaps a little bit closer to home. What has the Warcraft community meant to you?
Man, it's friendship. It's friendship and good times. Somebody who's been fortunate enough to have been on a raid team and part of a group that's been together for as long as we've been together, I think 7 years. And we've seen, weddings, births, divorces, deaths. I mean, we've seen shit, like real life shit together. And the group that I'm with, we're always together. We're always pulling for each other, or we're leaning on each other. And it's funny because it's such a sign of the 21st century and the digital age. I have not actually met most of these people. I have only met a handful of these people at a couple of BlizzCons, and those times were amazing. Some of the best times I've ever had were at BlizzCon. And for folks that have been to one, they know what I'm about. They understand what I'm about to say. For folks that haven't, you will when you go. You really feel like you're part of something when you go to a BlizzCon. Like you're like, holy shit! Like this is a real thing. Like I am part of a community. Like you really feel it, like for real, like in your blood. And I can't describe that experience being akin to anything else I know, other than my own family. But it's a different kind of feeling. This is something more external. And being a part of that, having those times, having those people around me. My best friend, the one I got to come with me to kill spiders in Elwyn Forest all those years ago, it's primarily the way we keep in touch is through the game now. And a couple nights a week, hey, how's it going? Hey, what you doing? Hey, how's the kids? How's work? How's the telecommuting? All this stuff that we do now, and that's how we check in on each other. And it's been fantastic. And there's bumps along the way. There's sometimes there's drama, sometimes there's hurt feelings, sometimes there's stuff. But you know what? That comes and goes. And for me, it's always been about this shared love of this space. They talk about it being kind of a third place, like a bar or a coffee shop. And Warcraft has become that place for so many more. It's just a spot to hang out. You're Norm at the corner of the bar and cheers. That's the vibe, and it's something that I've always enjoyed, and in some ways I know I've taken for granted that it's there. But it keeps me coming back, and I know that my friends are there, and we still have plenty of good times to look forward to, and that really brings a smile to my face and keeps my head up, especially when times are as difficult as they are right now. And to have that space and to have those people, it's really important, and I'm very thankful for them because they've seen me through some real hard times. And to be here now, today, where I'm at, doing what I'm doing, I don't know that I would be in the same spot without them. And a lot of people say that, and it's very true.
Yeah, I think a lot of us are having these stories, especially like you say now, these days, I think community really, really helps you with trying to cope with everything. Because even if it might not influence you directly with some things, I think a lot of us are still, like, you still get anxious and with the news and everything that you hear. And then sometimes it's just nice to know that, there's a group of people out there who like the same things I like with the game. We can just escape, have a nice chat, and just be there for each other.
Yep.
I think that gets grossly underestimated with how important it can be at times for people.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because it's hard to say that it's a generational thing, because we have some folks on my team that they're definitely a generation ahead of me, but it is one of those things where, as I talk to my son who's young, and I say, I didn't do any of this stuff with my father. To my dad, video games that's kid stuff, right? Like, you grow out of things like that. But for me, it's like, this is my community. These are my people. This is what we do. Like, you and I have never spoken before today, but like, you and I are part of this podcast community within a Warcraft community. Like, we're already part of something, whether we know it or not. And to me, that's really special, because I've seen how many people will pull for other people in those places. And I wish that my dad had a support system like that, but I'm glad I have it, and I try to impart that to my son is like, these are, you got to be safe, right? Digital security and online security and all that. But, these are real people and you come to rely on them. And it's not a bad thing. It's a great thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I agree with that. Okay. Very light question now. What's your favorite in-game food?
Oh, no question. The free food I get in Raid.
Hey, if it's free, but that's probably because I'm Dutch. I'm like, hey, if it's free, I'll stuff my bags.
It's not supposed to be free. I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to be fishing and putting stuff in the guild bank, and I've really been so shitty about that, and I apologize to everybody. I'm terrible. If I would say maybe for something that is more specific, going back to Wrath, I think I still have 10 stacks of dragon fin fillet somewhere. Because that was like our warrior food of choice back then, and I just have shit tons of it. So those would be my two.
Okay, fair enough. Well, with that, we have reached the final question of the podcast.
Oh my God.
I know that we got derailed now and again. That's my fault, but
I said, that's what happens. You bring me on here, the train just goes off the rails.
Yeah, but that makes for the most interesting interviews. I feel, I like it when the interview goes that way now and again. Even though I have most of the hand in that, because I love derailing. So, final question, which is, what is your whisper? And if you're new and this is the first time you're listening, it is my failed experiment question. So I had to figure out something. Everyone has these nifty things, and I'm like, gonna do it. My podcast title, well, let's make it this. So a whisper can be basically anything, but it could be maybe something that you wish for in the game, story wise, maybe any game mechanics you want implemented or taken out, a bit of theory crafting. So Berzerker, what would be your whisper?
So first of all, never bury your own question. It's a great question, and keep on asking it. Who gives a shit if anybody knows what it means? You just keep asking it, because I got it. Because I got two. I'll give you two.
Okay.
The first is, I really want Anduin to somehow find Varian in the Shadowlands. Because as I have watched his journey since the Broken Shore, there's all of this, and it waxes and wanes at times, but there's a lot of this doubt. There's a lot of this anxiety that he feels, and rightly so in many degrees. And a lot of it is born out of, I don't know if I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. I don't know if I'm doing enough. I don't know. It's just all these questions and doubt that he has. And I really hope that he gets the opportunity to speak to, the soul of his father, because they blew up his body, but I'm pretty sure the soul is still somewhere. To speak to him, or to be able to have a moment to give him some kind of reassurance that will pull him back from a potentially darker path. And as we talked about with Madeline Rue, as we get older just in our lives, we come to understand our parents better, I think, for good or ill. And for Anduin, I see a lot of that reckoning of, he was this peaceful buffer to his father's anger for so many years, and now he, as a leader, is coming to terms with, I got to take action, or I'm angry about this thing, or I've got to, do something here with these emotions, and, that plays out in various forms. But I hope that he can get the kind of reassurance that he needs to be like, hey, you're doing a good job. Just keep doing what you're doing. I'm proud of you. I love you. Now get back out there and go be the king. That kind of thing. Like, I really, God, I hope that there's a moment like that. There may not be. I'm such a mark for Varian, and I always want him to come back in some form, and I still go to his grave, quote unquote, his memorial, whatever you want to call that thing, every once in a while, and then just sit there and listen to music. But I hope there's a moment for Anduin somewhere out there like that. The second whisper that I have is, I need warriors to have a headbutt interrupt.
That would be so cool.
I have been asking for this for years. Now, the Kultiran's got a haymaker, which I think is great. They can throw this big overhand punch and, knock a dude out. That's great. But warriors need a headbutt. Like that, come on. Like big metal plate helm, just bang, and he's right on the crown of somebody. Like, make it happen, Blizzard. Make it happen.
That would be really cool. I mean, yeah, because even Torn get their war stomp. So why don't we get something like that for warriors? That you see it in every bar brawl movie.
Yes.
So why not in the game?
Dutch legend, Boss Rootin', Master Headbutter. Bring him in. He can do the mock up for it. Do it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I like that. Well, thank you for your 2 whispers. They're really, really cool. And yeah, like you say, even so, I want to say that they said that Varian's soul was obliterated, right? Yet there is that interaction with Anduin and Varian on the broken... Was it the broken shore?
Yeah, when he picks up Charlemagne.
Yeah.
Something happens there.
And they're talking, so,
I don't know.
Make it happen, Blizzard. Make it happen.
I will continually hold out hope, and it's a fool's hope, but it's hope nonetheless.
I think it would be amazing to see that in game. I really, really hope for that. But yeah, no, I like it. All right, well, Berzerker, thank you so much for the interview. I had such a blast talking to you.
Thank you. It's been fun.
If people want to find out more about you and about your podcast, where can they find you?
Yes, we're all over Twitter. We don't do the Instagram. We're not those kind of influencers, at least not yet. You can follow us on Twitter. I am at Berzerker Rage, one word. You can follow the show at Unshackled_Fury, and you can follow my partner in crime, Navox, at NAV_OX. We also do have a Twitch channel, Unshackled Fury. However, we've only done one live show that was after BlizzCon last year. I don't really do them, so you can follow it just for shits and giggles, and I guess we'll do another live show at some point when it's worth doing, but for the most part, it's Twitter. Our show, you can find us, we're hosted on SoundCloud, but we're on iTunes and Stitcher, and you can find us anywhere that you get your podcast. So if anything I said today was remotely interesting, you want to hear more of this kind of nonsense, Unshackled Fury is our podcast, and we're out there. So look us up, follow us, download it, and thank you for having me on.
It was great having you, and I'll make sure that all the links are in the show notes as well. But thank you again for taking the time to be interviewed.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
So I hope you enjoyed that interview. It was great talking to Berzerker, and I am very tempted to create a warrior. If Desmephisto hasn't pushed me into doing it, then I'm sure that them teaming up, Berzerker and him, I will probably have to also have a warrior, at least in Shadowlands. I mean, I do have a few, but I might main it. If Rogue is really bad, I might main it. Who knows? Anyhow, let's go to the question of the week, which was, are you on the PTR right now testing stuff out, or are you staying as far away as possible? And as always, the question of the week is on Twitter. So if you want to be part of that, go to Twitter at whispers_of_war. And this is what you guys answered. So old school JRL said, definitely want to try the character customization, but avoiding the pre-patch. Want to do it organically when it happens. Yeah, fair enough. I can understand that. Spanky Hunter said, staying away. I will look the week before, but only glance at class changes, etc. And any achievements or stuff that's being removed. The rest I'm avoiding. It worked for me for BFA, as I haven't had any burnout and have enjoyed the story and gameplay. Surprises are the best way to play. Yep. I understand why some want to really dive in, others just want to stay away. Lex said, I'll wait. I'm excited for Shadowlands itself, but the pre-patch isn't that exciting to me. It can wait. Fair enough. Demi North said, give all. I want to try everything. I won't level until the actual release though. Okay, yeah. Jarrett, the adventurer, said, while I tend to do as much beta testing as I can, I stay away from the PTR for pre-patch stuff because, well, you only get to experience those special events once. I like to keep those to life where I can experience them with my friends. Yeah, fair enough. I think that is fair enough. Gitty said, character creation, the new customization options are great. Also, the new player experiment is fun to see for a bit. Okay. Yeah, character creation, exactly. If you want to get into customization a little bit and see what your character could look like. You might want to already have some money out for the hairdresser to change your appearance. Then this is a perfect way of already deciding what you want. Megex is still wearing a mask, said, I tried the new character customizations, but won't do the invasion. I'll wait till pre-patch, so it's a surprise. Yeah, another person who is just going to wait. That's, seems to be a common thing, I think. Mackenzie said, I tried the character customization and Exile's Reach. Currently cannot do any of the expansion leveling due to the event killing all the NPCs, so I stopped there. Yeah. I'm very curious to see what happens on live when that goes out, to see what will happen. Exclavier said, I will check the customizations probably, but I tend to wait. I like experiencing the newness as it's released. I dabble very little into the PTR due to unlimited gameplay time. Travis said, I'll be enjoying all the screenshots people are sharing of their newly customized tunes, but personally won't touch PTR. I'd be sad to see what my characters will look like, but then not have that for months. Very true. It could still be a little while before we have that. So, I guess we have to wait. Character Craft said, nope, we are spoiler free so far. Okay. And again, a lot of people want to stay spoiler-free this time around. I can understand that. Milhoman said, I did logged in to see my hunter changes, test the flow of it, made my Nelf cute with the vines, and ran away as fast as I could. Brick said, I just did a new starting experience, but was dropped so many times that it was not worth to try other classes. Yeah, I understand that. Honors Amber said, I'll be on the PTR to see how I like Holy Paladin with Holy Power and get a feel for the pre-patch event. It sounds like the Scourge event is pretty overtuned, so I'll probably stay away from the cities as much as I can. There are some people who have complained about it, but it's, I find it a one-time event kind of thing. It's not going to be forever, is it? Jarv says, I'm going to stay away, don't want to deal with the PTR, still not done with BFA. Yeah, very true. And I guess it's a good thing that people are still not done with BFA, because we still don't know how long we have to wait. I mean, there's been speculation about dates and everything, and people are saying now October, November. It could be either of that. They have until the end of December, so I guess we will just see. I hope it's not going to be a December release, but we also have to keep in mind that there's a lot of other games coming out. I know Cyberpunk is coming out around September, October, I believe. So that's a big competitor for a lot of people. And yeah, there will be more games. But I hope I hope it's going to be the first week of November, just because it's my birthday and I can take that week off. just the game. But we shall see. I'm hoping that we'll get told soon, considering we're going towards September now. And it's not going to be that long anymore. Right, I guess I better jump into a little bit of beta testing for myself to figure out what I want. I'm not going to promise that by next week I'll know. Probably I won't know right before the expansion, but who knows? I might find something that really speaks to me this time around, until Blizzard changes everything about it again. So if you want to find out more about everything, then you can go to whispersofwar.podbean.com, where you can find the show notes and all the links to the guests and where to find them. If you want to be part of the discussion, go to dragonpoweredstudio.com/discord, where we do a lot of gaming, and hopefully we'll be having a little bit of Dungeons and Dragons there soon. Twitter at whispers_of_war for the show one, and for my personal one, go to muckmonkeys with a Z. You can email the show whispersofwarpodcast@gmail.com, or go to Twitch, twitch.tv/muckmonkeys with 2 Zs. And that's it, guys. I hope you have a wonderful week in WoW, whether you try the PTR or not, or you just focus on other things at the moment. But I hope to have you here again next week. So have a lovely week. Bye-bye.
This show is brought to you by Dragon Powered Studio. Find more at dragonpoweredstudio.com.